Hey, what's going on, everybody? So Death's Door is a new indie adventure RPG that just came out today from Acid Nerve and Devolver Digital. This is out for Xbox and PC, and it's currently going for $16.99, but I believe that price might only be for the rest of the launch day today. In this game, you play as a crow, also often referred to as a reaper, because your job in life is kind of just to go around and reap souls from people and from these creatures. And you're given the assignment of getting a giant soul, but early on in your quest to do that, your own assigned soul gets stolen, and you're forced to go along with this plan to acquire 3 giant souls so that you can get your own assigned soul back and in the process potentially unlock Death's Door. That might sound a little confusing just kind of throwing that out of context like that, but let's just start out with some of the gameplay here. This game is definitely combat focused. You start out with the basic melee weapon, which is your sword and also a bow and arrow. You can have a maximum of 4 arrows, but every time that you perform a melee attack on an enemy or on certain things around the map like pots and these little red orbs that are on the ground, maybe they're pink orbs, you get an arrow back. So it's not exactly unlimited, but it is quite simple to always have like the constant ability to swap back and forth from your sword and to the bow and arrow. And along with the arrows, you eventually unlock the ability to use magic as well. You can quickly swap back and forth between the magic and the arrows, which is also pretty simple to get a feel for. You do unlock some more weapons and magic along the way, but they all work in relatively the same way, and they are somewhat simple to use, but it was really fluid the whole way through, and I really did enjoy like the combat in the game the entire time. Now with the enemies is where the game really turns things up just a notch. None of them are like insanely difficult to go up against on their own, but every single one of them have their own distinct pattern of fighting and a distinct way of how they move around, and so when you go up against like some of the same types of them, it can be really easy to go against that, but once there's like 2 or 3 or even more than that, like different types of them around you, it does become a bit of a challenge to make your way around all of them. I really don't want to say that this game is hard, but for the amount of times that I died in this, I think I might just be lying to myself when I say that. It has the appearance of a game that's somewhat simple, but it's super sneaky with how tough it can be. Luckily though, the deaths are pretty forgiving. You can go back quite a ways because you always spawn back at the latest door that you entered, which in some cases felt like a mile back because you might have gotten like really far in that run and you maybe died at the final boss battle right before you were going to get to the next door or like the basically like the checkpoint. But the good thing here for people that might get frustrated with that is that your progress always sticks with you, so you don't have to like go back and do anything over again, but the enemies do respawn, so that can be a little annoying, but if you can, you should be able to like find a path to just kind of run right by them and you can quickly get right back to where you were when you died without really having to do anything else, and I thought that was a pretty nice touch. And as far as the story in this game, I actually felt pretty invested in it, although there's not a ton to really follow and not a ton that you have to really pay attention to. It's a unique story for sure though, in the sense that like there's some very strange and different characters to really any that I've seen before, and the settings that this game takes place in are really cool, especially the Hall of Doors, which has this like really moody black and white aesthetic to it. I was gonna actually separate the visuals as its own thing here, but let's just get into it now because the visuals for me basically was telling the story anyway. There is some great lore that you can find within the Hall of Doors every now and then, like as you would explore different parts of it that you could, as you found different ways to like unlock parts of the map, parts of that area that were blocked initially, but aside from that, it was really the beauty of this like strange and dark world that was really a character on its own. It was really dark at times, and for lack of a better word, even ugly, like specifically with the furnace level because of the dullness of that, and the enemy types were pretty ugly there too, and it just gave off like a really cold and bleak feeling. But there's also areas here that are filled with this sense of wonder and give off a much happier vibe that was really a pleasant contrast. What really helped to set the tone no matter where you were in the game though was the music. The score for this game has to be one of my favorites of the year so far. It was subtle pretty much the entire time, but that played perfectly into what you were doing. It was never too much, but it also never faded into the background either. There were times when I died when I could have easily just ran back to where I was, but I took the time to make sure that I had explored every single nook and cranny around the map and fought the enemies for a second or third time because I was just enjoying playing the game and enjoying being in this world, and really it was just like a great combination of all of the elements in this game that made that happen. I don't really think I have a negative to say about it. I suppose it would have been nice to have a somewhat faster respawn instead of going back to the last door that you had gone into, because it is pretty easy to die in this game. You can only get hit 4 times and you aren't able to heal yourself like whenever you want to. You have to pick up these life seeds and plant them in certain spots around the map that will heal you completely, but even then, once you use them to heal you, it's like unable to be used again until you die, so it can be a bit unforgiving in that sense. But I didn't mind that all that much because it just added another layer of difficulty to the game that in a way of course adds length to the game as well, so that's not really a bad thing at all. If this game was a lot easier, I don't think that it would quite have like the same impact, so even though I am mentioning this as like a sort of negative, it's definitely a really small one. I am a bit surprised that this isn't on Game Pass because as far as I've seen, this is only on Xbox in terms of like the consoles. It's not on the Switch or PlayStation, at least for now. Maybe that's a permanent thing, I'm not exactly sure. But even then, I actually would say for the price point that it's at, which is $20 full price, I think it's actually a must buy. And it does feel a little wrong like ever saying that, because I could love a game more than anything in the world and the vast majority of other people could end up hating it, so it's a tough thing to ever like say that something is a must buy. But I legitimately think that this is not only one of the best games of the year, but one of the best games, like definitely one of the best indie games to come out in the past few years. It's just so entrancing, the bosses are all really unique and fun to go against, really all the enemy types are, and it's actually funny. I almost forgot to mention that, but I loved the writing in this game too. There's no actual dialogue or narration in this, but I think that was actually the best choice for it. It's just overflowing with so much weird imagination and creativity that I would have never been able to envision if this game didn't exist, so I'm really happy that it does. But yeah, I think that's all I got for this one. Had any of you heard about this game before today? I've been reading up about it, and there's actually a lot of people that were really excited for this, but you know, I guess I've never really been like super deep into gaming news, especially with some of these smaller games, so I only found out about this coming out like a few days ago, but I'm more than sure that this is gonna get like a lot of great buzz, so I'm really excited to see like where this goes. But yeah, you know, I hope you're all doing well out there wherever you are. I really appreciate you watching this so much more than I can say, and I hope to catch you all in the next video. So until then, everybody, take care.